One of the other things that we looked at last week, let me change this back to 100 and 100. One of the other things we looked at was using the mouse coordinates inside the canvas to make things move. So if I change my X value for the location of the ellipse to the mouse X, so I'm using the mouse coordinate for X, you can see that as I move my mouse across, it's moving that circle back and forth. And it runs once it hits the end, because it has the 0, 0 location for an ellipse is in the center. Once that center hits the left-hand side, it stops. Over here on the right-hand side, it continues all the way through. But because I have 100 set as my Y, it's 100 pixels down to the center of this ellipse. It's not going to go off of there. It doesn't matter if I go move my mouse up and down anywhere along the point. It's going to continue to stay in that exact same spot. So when I change my 100 to mouse Y, you can see that it zeroes out up at the top. But as I move my mouse over top of the canvas now because I have the X and Y coordinates set to the mouse X and mouse Y, it's going to continue to move wherever I move the mouse. And it's located directly in the center of that circle. Now, another cool thing you can do, because we have this setup feature at the top, when I look at my draw function, the draw function is drawing the background color, and it's also drawing the ellipse, the circle, at 60 times per second. So as I move my mouse across here, if it took me a second to go across, it's redrawn that 60 times as we go across. Because it's drawing the background and the ellipse, it makes it look like the ellipse is not leaving any marks, because it's redrawing both of those as I move my mouse. If I was to copy this background, cut it out, and paste it up here into the setup area, that creates the background one time, and it's going to draw the ellipse as I move my mouse at that 100 height and width. So as I'm moving my mouse, it is redrawing that circle, and it doesn't refresh because it does not draw the background during that whole process. So it drew the background one time, and now it's giving me the ability to move the mouse all over, and every single time I move it, it is just continuing to draw that ellipse. The slower I go, the closer those ellipses are together. The faster I go, back and forth like this, it's still drawing it at 60 times per second, but it's not drawing them as close because I'm moving my mouse faster. We also looked at changing the height and the width as a variable. We can also replace that with maybe the mouse X, because that is a value. It is in this case, it is a 0, 0 value up here. And as I move my mouse in the Y direction, it doesn't change. But as I move my mouse in the X direction, it gets wider and wider, from 0 to 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 pixels wide. So the X direction, the width of the circle, the ellipse, changes from 0 to 400, because that's the maximum width that I have of my canvas. Also, if I change the height to a mouse Y, now once it refreshes, I can move this direction, and you can see how it goes from 0 to 400 this way. It also goes from 0 to 400 this way. So if I move my mouse all the way to this far corner, it's going to be 0, 0 up here, and it's going to be 400 by 400 down here at the far corner. It's kind of wild. Another thing you can do is you can use a fill color. If I want to specifically color this ellipse, I can come into the fill area, and let's say I want to be, let's go back here. I'm going to choose like an orange. Sure, 38, 121, 209. Nope, that's not what I want. This one, there we go. 212, 99, 34. 212, 99, 34. So now as I draw it, it's an orange one. The cool thing is I can change these numbers because mouse X is a value and mouse Y is a value. As I move my mouse across here, it changes the color.
Attention, please. Could Aiden Crossgrove report to the office?
So because I'm using values from mouse X and mouse Y, I can say mouse X plus mouse Y. And that's my stroke color. Or no, my middle color there. I could do divide by 2. And now it's changing a little bit more. So I can do pretty much anything. Anything that gives me a value I can use to make my my colors here. There we go. There's my orange again. So we have those things. We can do those. We can also do the stroke if you wanted to do the stroke. At 0. Now it's black. If I want to do 255, now it's set to white. So now it'll be a white stroke on the outside. You can change all these things. I'm going to do the background. I'm going to move this background back into the draw area. So it's going to be drawing that every single time. So it has more animation to it.